Welcome back to the Grand Solar Minimum channel. Today is Wednesday, April 28th, 2021. Hope everyone is having a great weekend, or a week I should say. The weekend is almost upon us, so hang in there folks, we're halfway through. Tonight, let's get started with some space weather news. Right now, our solar wind speeds are sitting at 324.7 kilometers per second, with a density of a 5.4. And right now, looking at our sun, we have 3 sunspots to talk about. 28, 20, 28, 18, and 28, 21 are the 3 sunspot regions that we have on the southern part of our star that is now beginning to turn away from Earth. And these are only a sunspot number of 47. So between 3 sunspots, we're a little bit above a minimum average sunspot smooth count. So for 3 sunspots to only produce a sunspot number of 47, relatively weak, but we are starting to see signs of solar cycle 25 beginning to wake up. We knew it was going to happen. It's just a matter of time. And that is obvious. A couple of reasons. We've had a few more geomagnetic storms to talk about since the last time we went on the air. We are starting to see an increase of G1 geomagnetic storms, and some storms have flirted with G2 possibilities. But still, we are at the very bottom of this uptick in the cycle. It's just begun, and you all know, if you've been following this channel for years or months, this stuff takes time. So to me, I'd say that the predictions that I've seen so far about solar cycle 25 being somewhere smooth spot number around 110 to 115, I feel like that's going to be about an accurate count for peak sunspot activity. And there are several studies out there that verify anywhere from 91 to 115. NASA says to 115. A new paper came out today. I only saw the abstract. I didn't see the whole paper. But a new paper came out today forecasting sunspots at 140 as the peak sunspot number. So there are predictions, forecasts, that anywhere from 67 to now 140. Some actually, I have had one other person say they think it's going to be 150, 170. That is also a person who is part of AGW theory, support, all that good stuff. But the point I'm making is I feel like solar cycle 25 has gotten off to a slow start. It is still pretty weak. And how else do we know that solar cycle 25 is still weak? Well, take a look at the bottom of the screen where it says Space Weather Station. Today, 9.9%. Now, that's a 48-hour change of 1. I have it -1. It's actually above, so it's a positive. What does that mean? The cosmic radiation dosage rate. So since the beginning of the minimum, we have seen increased amounts of cosmic rays. That is what happens during solar minimum. The reason why our atmosphere sees the increase of cosmic radiation is because our magnetosphere is weak, thanks to the connection to the sun. Sun's weak, magnetosphere is weaker. So it allows more cosmic radiation and other particulates out of space to enter our atmosphere. And today we are looking at a 9.9% dosage rate of cosmic radiation. During the peak, the bottom of this current solar minimum that we're just starting to peel out of, we saw measurements of 9.7% to around 11.5. 9.7 being the lowest, 11.5 being the highest. Just so y'all know, the record is 11.7% dosage rate, and that was set back in 2009. My point is that if we are still seeing 9.9% cosmic radiation saturation, in the atmosphere, as far as our dosage rate, that is still within the parameters of what we saw during the bottom of this minimum. And this was a deep solar minimum. Very little sunspot activity. In fact, I'd say we had way less sunspot activity during this minimum than we did of the previous minimum before this in 2009 and 2010. So there's so many things that you can look at when we show this screen that tells you that the sun is still in minimum light conditions. Looking at the cosmic radiation, we're seeing an increase of cosmic rays because the magnetosphere is still weak. Solar wind speeds right now are low, but 324 is low, especially when we're supposed to be upticking towards the maximum period, which should happen somewhere in 2025. Now, this new study came out today, says that the peak will happen in 2024 instead of 2025 at 140. Okay, maybe. Again, I wish I could have seen the entire paper. All I saw was the abstract. They didn't have the paper available to look at. I'd like to see how they came up with that conclusion. But again, in science, you're going to have more than one theory and more than one answer out there. Science is never settled. That's why we exist on this platform. If we just went with the settled science or the so-called settled science, there wouldn't be a grand solar minimum channel. There wouldn't be no reason to investigate climate because, remember, the science is settled on climate, right? Man causes it. Sun has little input. I actually had someone who is in the AGW crowd debunk or try to play off the fact that they proved that the sun's output between minimum and maximums affect our INSO. And when I pointed this out, all he said back was, all influences the climate. And I thought to myself, well, yeah, aren't you guys saying that the sun doesn't affect the climate, that it's man that drives climate change? And I got nothing back from him. And I'm wondering if the narrative is changing for AGW because things are happening in real time that are not on the same page with AGW. For those of you who don't know, AGW, Anthropogenic Global Warming, man-made, which this channel does not believe climate change is man-made. It's naturally happening, guys. It's happening, yes. No one's denying that on this side of the ropes. Climate change is happening, but it's not your fault. It's not my fault. And these stupid ideas they have to replace, energy, to me, causes more CO2 than the original plans in place. What charges up 100 Teslas on a auto sales lot? Generators, diesel-powered generators. You have to start them all at least twice a month, at least, right? Once every 2 weeks. How much CO2 you burning just to start the car? Forget about driving it. These machines that plug in to charge are still pulling off of the electric grid if they're not going off of generators. So how green is this technology? And why are we waiting till 2035 to be 0% net carbon? If CO2 is killing the planet, why aren't we destroying it now? Why aren't we getting rid of it now? What are we waiting for? I'll tell you what we're waiting for. Everybody needs to get rich first. By the time they realize that net zero is not possible by 2035, they'll already have their millions from all the Green New Deal stuff. The impossible meat, all of it. They'll all be rich. Everybody thought that, and then they'll say in the late 2020s, they'll say, well, look, our efforts are paying off. The climate's cooling now. We've done it. And then by 2035, they'll say, you know what? We need to put CO2 back. Turns out we've taken too much CO2 out of the atmosphere and it's getting cold. I can see it now. But in reality, what's happening is that we are experiencing a natural cycle called the grand solar minimum that happens around 206 years, every 206 years. And right now, we are alive to be going through it. So what we aim to do here at this channel is try to educate people and try to keep people in the loop on what all this means that you're looking at. And on top of that, to keep you informed on what to be prepared for, how to be prepared, and just giving you an idea of what is to be expected during grand solar minimum. Everything we cover here is what you can expect during a GSM. And these space weather stats right here, to me, are some of the most important things that you could follow when it comes to following GSM on a daily basis. With that being said, before we leave this screen, we do have a possibility of a mini CME impact from solar flares that we produced on the 25th and 26th. Now, these are from the sunspots that are turning away from Earth. Couple that with a coronal hole that will be here. The solar wind will be here by the 30th of April. This impact from the CMEs, which will be very, very minor, still could bring a punch for seismic activity by the 30th of April. So be on the lookout for a possibility of a G1 storm and the possibility of some stronger moderate quakes from 6.5 and up, possibly even a volcano eruption that could be a pretty high ash plume. Let's go to the grandsolarminimum.com and check out our space weather section here. Very nice. Very low solar X-ray flux right now. Nothing happening. Nothing more than a B. And those are from those sunspots that are turning away from Earth. There's our KP indices since April 27th. And the lower those are, the better chances for this is from what I've seen studies of. This could affect heart health, anxiety. Also, when you're looking at 0 to 3 and an Earth-facing coronal hole, which we do have, it's going to be on the northern part of the magnetosphere, but we still have it. You're also increasing that risk for an earthquake, a 6.5 to a 7.0, and possibly a little bit weaker than that. And then, like I said, throw in with the maybe possibility of the CME impact. Again, this was not Earth-facing flares, but they could be brushing up against our magnetosphere and giving a slight bump. Could just create more auroras too. It doesn't even have to be anything about earthquakes. But just giving you a heads up, the space weather is favorable for a possible event for an earthquake or a small volcano eruption. Now, I want to show you the next sunspot after these right here. Here we are. This is Earth facing right now. This is turning away from Earth, and this is the eastern limb, which right now, from the eastern limb to where we are in the 0 degree area, we have nothing. Now, that could change as we see a bright active region here in the negative 150. And remember, it's not Earth facing until it hits negative 190. So how long will it take it for traveling from here to here? Possibly 3 to 4 days, which is possibly how long these areas might be Earth facing. And even though we have all of this back here blank, it still is a possibility that we only get maybe 1 day without sunspots before the next region shows up into our Earth-facing side. So, again, nothing to write home about. This is not crazy sunspot activity. This is still pretty minimum stuff here. But it is indications that we are starting to see more activity from our sun. And therefore, we are progressing out of the solar minimum and moving into the maximum for solar cycle 25, which right now, just based on my observations, and I'm not a scientist, guys, I simply report on this stuff, but I pay attention. I've observed this for over 5 years now, and from what I can tell you, from what I've learned from people that I've followed and studied, Valentina Zarkova, a lot of stuff from Lee Wheelbarger, John Casey as well, and others. I know I'm probably forgetting a lot of folks. But just from what I've learned and seeing how much of a slow start that solar cycle 25 is compared to solar cycle 24, the slower the start, the weaker the cycle. So I'm already seeing proof that solar cycle 25 will be weaker than solar cycle 24. If not the same, but right now it's looking like it's going to be a little bit weaker, especially this year on spotless days. We're not even halfway through the year, and we have 41 days without sunspots. Remember, 2010 is what we're gauging on how weak this solar cycle is going to be by looking at the sunspot or spotless days here in 2021. We're sitting at 41. We had 51 in 2010, and we saw how weak solar cycle 24 was. So if we have 81 spotless days or 61 spotless days. Does that mean we see a weaker solar cycle 25? Barely. Barely weaker, just a little bit weaker. Now, if we got close to 80 to 100, yeah, a lot weaker, and that smooth sunspot number could be lower than 115. But right now, I think we're right on pace to be just below what we were in solar cycle 25. All right, let's get to some non-Earth and non-our sun news. I just thought, let's cover it. It's a sun. Record-breaking solar flare erupts from Proxima Centauri. And this is the closest star to our solar system. But scientists have observed an extreme record-breaking solar flare from this sun, our sun's closest star. The outburst was roughly 100 times more powerful than any similar event seen from our own sun. This might be a small red dwarf, but the star has roughly 1/8 the mass of our own sun and is located 4 light years or more than 32 trillion kilometers or 20 trillion miles away. So our sun from Earth is 93 million miles away. This sun is 20 trillion miles away. Still, not as far as you would think when it comes to space, right? Space is huge. The galaxy is beyond infinity. So 4 light years is interesting. The reason why I'm saying this is because I feel like that, and we've already kind of seen this too in other theories, but the sun is connected to every planet in the solar system, okay? And I believe that we see this magnetic connection like a web throughout the entire universe. And these stars are connected to their solar systems and star to star via magnetic connection. I could be wrong, but that makes sense to me. So I brought this to our attention tonight just because, if this is a cyclic thing and we're all interconnected throughout the universe and the sun has a heartbeat, which we're starting to see in these cycles, do these events from previous stars that are close by trigger bigger impulses from our own sun? Or is this just mainly a random thing that this star is doing and there's no synchronicity with this at all? It's just a random thing, coincidental, that it had a huge solar flare. But I thought it was interesting to bring up tonight that we're seeing a record massive solar flare 100 times bigger than any event we've ever. So imagine the Carrington event 100 times bigger than what actually happened. Imagine that for a minute. All right, well, while you were imagining that, I took a quick drink, and hopefully this refreshing ice-cold diet soda here, wow, that's really good. Anyway, hopefully you've had time to imagine what a 100-time Carrington event would be like. We'd all be cooked. Let's just put it that way. So let's hope that this star that's 4 light years away is just acting weird and doing its own thing, and we don't have to worry about this. And let's hope that there's not some kind of connection in solar activity and triggering large events like this. I mean, and the reason why I'm saying this is because if you have stars that are interconnected like a web, magnetic connection all over the universe, isn't there a pulse? So, just wondering, is there a pulse? Is there a pulse in the universe? Of course there is, right? All right. Anyway, staying outside of Earth, InSight reveals surprising seismicity on Mars in its first continuous year of data. Surprising, more than 500 quakes have been detected so far on Mars. Its first continuous year of data. The findings come from the Marsquakes service, part of the InSight ground team that monitors Marsquakes and curates the red planet's seismic catalog. I think I touched base on something like this not too long ago, but I think we're going to start to see more seismic activity from Mars, the longer these devices are able to stay up and running on Mars. Now, Elon Musk thinks we'll have people on Mars by 2024, I think he says. Hopefully, we'll see. It'd be nice to see if that actually could happen. But my bet is that, and I wonder why they picked the 2024 year, folks. Think about this. During solar minimum, the human body cannot be outside in space for more than 400 to 600 days continuously. All right. If anybody knows how long it takes to get to Mars from here, I thought it was 9 months. So either way, could it be the reason why we're hearing about these future trips to the moon and Mars in 2024 is because they know that there will be a little bit more protection from the magnetosphere throughout the solar system because the sun will be near its maximum peak of solar cycle 25, which will, as Kirk would say, shields up and protect better from cosmic radiation penetrating throughout the solar system. Not just Earth's atmosphere, but all over the solar system. And I can only imagine the closer you are to the sun, the more cosmic radiation that you're going to receive. The further away from the sun, the less you'll see. I'm not saying it goes away altogether if you go out to Pluto, but it's less and less likely that the highly charged particles mainly are absorbed closest to the sun, I would think. So interesting stuff we got here in the news tonight. Record-breaking solar flares, earthquakes on Mars. Well, I'm sorry, Marsquakes on Mars, since they can't be called earthquakes, right? Speaking of earthquakes, strong and shallow 6.4 earthquake hits Assam, India. This was today. Now, they reported this around 7:56 local time. Agency is reporting a depth of 10.5 miles. That's the USG reporting at a 6.0 with a depth of 21 miles. And the European model is reporting at a 6.1 depth, 24.8 miles. So which one do you trust, right? Well, USGS. Usually we go off of that. But India's own Asia, their own center, India's National Center of Seismology, is calling it a 6.4. And why not? Why they should be the ones that call the seismicity, the magnitudes of these. They're the ones living in it, right? So anyway, earthquakes 6.4. I think we did talk about this last week. We'd see some moderate earthquakes coming up in the future. Nothing major. 6.0, 6.4. There was another 6.4 in Tonga just hit 2 days ago. So we've been seeing these off and on, these 6.0s, these 6.4s, earthquakes hitting throughout throughout the world, I should say, not the United States. The United States has seen some minor earthquakes, nothing crazy, but a strong and deep earthquake registered by the USGS as a 6.4 hit the Tonga region at 22:28 UTC on April 25th, 2021. The agency is reporting a depth of 145 miles. The EMSC is reporting this at a 6.5 with a depth of 150 miles. Again, take your pick. USGS or the EMSC. Usually the EMSC is always higher than the USGS. You could say the USGS is conservative. In fact, sometimes a little too conservative. It'll be registered as a 6.9 and 10 minutes later it drops to a 6.3. So it's almost like they're afraid to say, hey, we had a big one. No, you didn't have a big one. It's just strong. It's okay. We can handle it, right? We want the truth. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I don't want my tax dollars being spent on policies that don't do what they claim to do. I'm talking about green policies. We're not going to change the climate. We're not going to revert to anything. And, you keep hearing about, Biden's motto is build back better. We can't build back things the way they used to be. We need to move forward. But that's right. We do need to move forward. And it's time to realize that, time to move on from these green energies. Look what happened in Texas this year. Bills are skyrocketing. Germany all these other countries that have these green policies that started off good in the beginning and now quickly are going broke. Bills are through the roof. The UK, same thing. Energy bills are through the roof. This green energy is not going to do it for the supply and demand. It's not going to work. The deeper we get into this grand solar minimum, right now it's maybe working, but the deeper we get into this grand solar minimum, the output's going to be less and less. I don't care what you say. I would not want to be relying on solar panel energy by the year 2030 through 2053. No joke. Wouldn't want it. Especially, I'd say really a concentrated window of 2028 through 2045. I think that's going to be the worst of grand solar minimum conditions. Hands down. In the end, it's us that's paying for this upgrade. We're paying for it. Not really even us. Our children seem to be paying for it. With all the stimulus money and all the bailout money we've had, there's no way that any kind of budget for Green New Deal policies is going to come out of our pockets. Unfortunately, our children and their kids will be paying for stuff like this. Yes, Matt. Settle down, big guy. I got you. Matt Bros is a good friend of mine from Nebraska, and he is the reason why I am up to date on farming at all, period. Since we have Matt so eager, and I don't blame him because it's Wednesday, right? This is a crop report one. Let's get to the UK first, and then we'll talk about us. UK hit by frostiest April on record. Farmers and growers reporting considerable damage. Not good. This month has already recorded an average of 13 days of air frost, topping the 11-day record set in April of 1970. As of Tuesday, April 27th, England has seen frost for 12 days, Wales 11 days, Scotland 16, their frostiest April since record keeping began in 1960. Northern Ireland has also experienced 8 days of frost, not yet surpassing their record of 11, which was set back in 1983. That's a great year, by the way. I think E.T. came out in theaters. I mean, it doesn't get better now. Anyway, we've been seeing high frequency of frost overnights throughout April, thanks largely to persistent clear skies for most, said Mike McCarthy of the National Climate Information Center. He says this will be reflected at the end of the month statistics, which are already showing above average sunshine duration, as well as low minimum temperature readings overnight, with some parts of northern England and Scotland reporting minimum temperatures of 6.3 degrees Fahrenheit lower than the average for April. Many farmers and growers have reported considerable damage due to the harsh conditions. Sound familiar? Matt, are you able to get going yet in your fields? I think the chat would love to see that as well. How is your plant going? I keep up with him on this as well. But we are at the end of April, so he should be underway. Things should be going okay, hopefully. But with these persistent chilly temperatures, and it's not just here in the U.S. So here we are at the very beginning of Grand Solar Minimum, where we told you that we were going to see crop challenges from here through 2053. But remember, this is only just the very beginning, so this is nothing. What we're seeing right now is not the worst of it. This is just the appetizer. This is getting the engine primed up, basically, for what's to come. I hate to be a Debbie Downer. I'm not trying to be negative here, but this is the beginning of crop challenges that we will see throughout the United States and the world, not just here. I saw in my comment section that the Southern Hemisphere is already experiencing winter-like temperatures in April. So they are 2 months ahead of schedule right now. And I've always been told this, and it's always kind of ring true as well. But whatever happens in the Southern Hemisphere is what's going to happen in the upcoming winter, or close to it. So to see that 2-month early winter temperatures, here in the Northeast, we saw winter-like temperatures by mid-November. And then we got our first big snow in December, and it stayed on the ground through March 15th. So from March 16th through March 15th, there was at least no less than a foot of snow, a foot to 3 feet of snow on the ground at all times between those days. December 16th through March 15th. That was this past winter. So the southern hemisphere is already showing regions that are seeing temperatures 2 months early than what they should be, and those sink in and stay. Man, I mean, this winter was cold and brutal. I've never been more ready for a spring and summer like I have this year. Matt says that, I asked him how is his plant going, and right now Matt says we've had just started, but had rain last night, so today was a mud day in the shop. And that is a farmer's life, guys. It's all about weather and how many suitable days they have for work in the fields, which this map here does keep. Oh, they got rid of my map. Oh, that was my favorite thing of this crop report. How dare they? So there used to be a map that showed us, that broke it down, days of work, suitable days for work in these fields. And they've taken it out of the report. Why would they do that? My gosh. Nope, they moved it. Yeah. So, for instance, Matt is here in Nebraska, and his region is looking at 5.3 days. Not bad. Most of the week they could work, but hey, listen, farmers don't work Monday through Friday. They work Monday through Monday, and then they add an extra week at the end of the year and still find a way to work. No, seriously, a farmer's work is never done. So 5.6 days, 5.3 days, 3.3 in Missouri, 4.3 in Illinois, 3.7 in Indiana, 2.9 in Ohio. And it's important, folks, because that's Indiana and Ohio, corn, and soybeans. Big deal there. So we've seen snow showers in southwest Ohio, accumulating snow, cold temperatures, frost there. The South, 5.1 days in Mississippi and Alabama. And I'm telling you, that's great news considering how much rain they've gotten across the South in severe weather. So really, just Missouri and Ohio and Indiana, Minnesota are our worst states right now. And the rest of the country looks like about average, not at full speed yet. They could be doing better. But that's our suitable work days, what they look like. Here in New York, 3.1 days. Again, not a big deal here in New York as far as crops. Apple orchards, wineries, pumpkin patches, stuff like that. But nothing real crazy up here. What is the other part? Drought monitor. And yes, we have some areas to focus in on. Not really much to say of here in the Midwest, the Ohio Valley, the southern regions. They're getting plenty of rain. Central Plains as well. But also the northern Plains and the Southwest are in need of tons of rain right now. So let's hope that we do get that here in the near future. Now let's go check out how our crops are doing in the fields. We have percentages here on how much corn has been planted. For instance, Colorado, previous year, was 15%. Last week, they had 6% in the ground. This week, they have 11%. Their 5-year average is 9%. So they are 2% above their 5-year average right now. Colorado is in good shape. Another state that is not doing horrible, Indiana, they're at 14% right this week. But last year, they were at 16%. They still doubled their output of plant in a week time, and their 5-year average is 12%. So Indiana is slightly up. Illinois is down 5% on their 5-year average from 28 down to 23. Kentucky doing very well right now. They're outperforming. Last year they were at 41%. This year they're at 41%. That's a 15% jump from last week, and their 5-year average is a 32% for corn being planted for this time during the year. So they're 9% above that. So Kentucky doing really well. Michigan, even though it looks like not a lot's getting done, well, it's actually they're outperforming. Montana also sort of right at that 5-year average. Last year they were killing it. 34. This year, not so much. Missouri, 23% last year this time. Only 20% this year. That's up 6%. And Missouri is down big time on their 5-year average. They're normally 44% planted with corn, and right now sitting at 20. Nebraska, our friend Matt, and he says people are just getting started out there. A lot of people are behind. Well, here we go. Last year, this time, we had 17% corn planted. Last week, we had 2%. And this week, we got a whopping 6%, so up 4%. Nebraska is usually sitting at 15% of the corn planted at this point. Matt is no liar, folks. It shows right here in the stats. And the verdict is in. Nebraska is down 9% from their 5-year average as far as corn being planted. So a lot of states are just right there at their 5-year average. Some are doing well. Texas is doing good. Tennessee is doing good. Some states are struggling or slow. South Dakota is definitely slow. PA is slow. Ohio is up a little but still slow. North Dakota is slightly up. North Carolina doing fairly well right now. They're above their 5-year average. Not a lot of states struggling, but still we got to pay attention to states like Nebraska and Iowa and Colorado and the middle part of our country as well. So that's how much corn's been planted. The soybean, again, more of the same for some of these states. Louisiana is down from last year on their soybeans planted. Again, lots of storms in the south delaying planting right now. Arkansas is actually up 15%. Illinois is up 2%. Indiana is down 1% from last year. Iowa is down 2% from last year, but still 3% higher for their 5-year average. Kentucky doing very well. 14% is planted of soybeans compared to their 5-year average of 5%. So they are really exceeding right now as far as Kentucky is concerned with plant. Louisiana, I just mentioned, was down. Mississippi is up 12% from last year. I'm sorry, up 16% from last year. Maybe I can try to count here. 18%. Yeah, let's do that. 18%. Okay. 3% above the 5-year average on soybeans. And Missouri slightly up from last year. Nebraska soybeans down from last year, 3%. But their 5-year average for planted soybeans at this time is 3%. So right now, we're not seeing anything major as far as problematic. We'll continue to watch, though, as it's still early plant. And I'll tell you this, too. And Matt's brought this to my attention. The commodities pricing has gone up. And you would think that that's always going to be good for farmers to see prices double in a year's time. But with prices going up for commodity, you also have to account for, at some point, the increase of what you input into your crops. Fertilizer, seed, all of that. That cost goes up as well. So sometimes it's confusing when you see commodity prices go up. The thing that you have to consider is if commodity prices go up, how far up does the input go as well? And if we get crop damage this summer from hailstorms or early frosts, so much could happen this summer. Guys, this is, to me, I've never felt more uncertain about what a summer could lead to than I have this year. Every single NOAA forecast for temperatures has failed. Every month. Now, May and June, NOAA's predicting more warmth for the region. No shit. Sorry for the language, but May and June being warmer in the northern hemisphere, you gotta be kidding me, right? Anyway, so I'm not sure what's going to happen this summer. Right now, with the slow plant, slow-moving solar cycle, anything's possible. Cooler temperatures still prevailing in a lot of parts of the United States. Let's take a look at our latest GFS forecast model. Let's go the whole thing, but remember the first 8 days, let's pay attention to. Right now, we've got a pretty large storm system all the way from New Mexico going into parts of New Hampshire. So rain widespread throughout the country tomorrow. And boy, we really need some rain in the southwest. Unfortunately, nothing happened yet. More storms along the Mississippi River heading into the Ohio Valley. Heavier rain for Friday, April 30th into the northeast. Some snow possible in the far northern parts of Michigan. But mainly this is all going to be rain. Now this will bring colder air overnight Saturday, May 1st. That's right. There could be some flurries in North Country in the New York, and even in the capital region, as far south as Poughkeepsie. You could see snow flurries Saturday, May 1st. Grand solar minimum, huh? Anyway, dry behind that, low pressure trying to take over once again across the central plain states with another system possibly forming here by Sunday, May 2nd, getting storms fired up again in the south, bringing another low through Colorado and Kansas. Nebraska, Matt, look out for some heavy rain by Monday, May 3rd. Again, the areas that we're seeing all this rain, it's nice, but we need it in the southwest. We've got plenty of moisture here where this green blob is for May 4th. And may the 4th be with you as well, especially if you live in these regions here where we just saw heavy rain here in the northeast. By next week early, we'll see more of the same. And look at that, snow in Colorado and Wyoming. Yeah, the Rockies, maybe even Denver, getting some May snow, folks. They talked about all month long about April being snow and, it's going to break its old record, which it did. Now we're talking about snow showers possible for May 1st. Not very long lasting. A slight cold front moving in the northwest mountains. But look at that, more storms generated across the south by Wednesday, May 5th. More rain for the northeast by Wednesday. So lots of rain heading to the Ohio and the northeast and the southern regions of the United States. And some possible frozen precipitation for the Colorado Rockies and other mountainous regions throughout Montana, Wyoming, and Idaho. Moving on to May 6th, that's a week from now. This is where we kind of have to say, all right, this is about as far as we can say we have an idea, a firm grip on the forecast. Anything after this is almost pure speculation, but a solid idea what could happen moving forward. So again, we've got another low pressure system moving in through the south. That brings rain to the Carolinas as well by Friday, May 7th. And then this low pressure system will scoot off into the mid-Atlantic, maybe affecting Massachusetts, Boston area, New York City, just some light springtime showers and more rain for the northeast by Saturday, May 8th. Believe it or not, we're still seeing snow on the weather map here in Montana, Idaho, Utah, Wyoming, and that's a monster of a snowstorm for May 11th throughout the North Dakotas and Montana. Let's hope that the GFS has some sort of virus, and that was just a little bit overdone. But the pattern remains clear, folks. From what I'm seeing, lots of moisture through most of the eastern part of the United States, all the way back to the Ohio Valley, which would contribute to cooler temps, right? Let's take a look at these temps. Zoom this in a little bit. All right, so pretty normal right now, not bad. Nice and warm on the south and the east coast. Daytime highs on Friday, April 30th, looking like spring for most of us. The northeast, a little chilly. But still, this looks good. May 1st, still chilly in the northeast. Not quite where we want it to be. 48, 50s. Ugh. May 3rd, 40s and 50s for highs in New York and Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine. Say it ain't so, knife collector. Say it ain't so, veg. We have to deal with this BS 40s and 50s through May 4th, according to the GFS. Now, here across the south, you guys looking good. But my concern is right here, folks. Are we getting enough heat? Are we getting enough dry days for farming in these areas right here? Okay, with all that moisture, cloud coverage, we have cooler temps. And I really believe every time we start to get warm, like right here, then we get more rain, a bigger system moving across the United States. And look at the sharp contrast of this cold front. Look at that. I mean, you're talking 80s on one side of it and 40s and 20s a few hundred miles back. In May 12th. Once again, a cold front pushing this beautiful spring-like early summer weather down to the south. And you can see that area right here. Bet your bottom dollar there's a storm right there. May 13th, let's back up. Boop, 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 boop. Oh, look at that. May 13th, heavy rain. May 13th is going to keep that heavy rain is going to keep those temperatures cool. So the reason why I kind of use these long-term forecasts for an idea is because the temperatures and everything seem to line up with the moisture. So with all this heavy rain kind of suppressing those warmer temperatures, and my God, it looks muggy down in the south by the middle of May. You get to May 14th, daytime highs in the northeast, 50s and 60s maybe. Northwest, same scenario, 40s, 50s, and 60s. But right here, we got to watch this, guys. This needs to get way warmer right here, here, and here, and out here. 60s and 70s ain't going to grow much. 70s, not going to grow much. We need, obviously, it's only May. Nothing to panic about. Summer's not here yet. But usually we're seeing warmer temperatures than mid-70s. I mean, Matt, correct me if I'm wrong in the chat. May 14th should be warmer than 73 in your neck of the woods. Am I right? Right? I mean, 73 is pretty low for this time. I believe anyway, if Matt's still here. So that's why Noah, once again, said we're going to have warmth in May and June. Well, yeah, it's changing into summer. And looking at this GFS long term, the warmth is going to stay into the south. Maybe the Central Plains might experience some of this. It should be. Matt confirmed it. It should be a lot warmer than 73 degrees. So I don't know how much warmer, maybe 5 to 6 degrees off. But still, that's substantial. 5 to 6 degrees, and that's everything in the world of farming. And if it continues that trend all summer long, that could be a problem. That could lead to lower yields. All right? If you don't have proper growing conditions, you're looking at weak, crappy crops. Okay? Hate to put it to you that way, but that's just the truth. And again, this is only the beginning, folks. The grand solar minimum has barely begun. It's barely here. And we're already talking about these weird climate conditions that we're experiencing now. Record-breaking snows, people still getting record-breaking cold into May, snow still falling across the United States in May. We haven't had a Mount Tambora, but man, are we going to... I really think that the South and the Southwest is going to be where most of the concentrated heat is this year. Sure, we'll see some heat waves through Ohio a couple times and stuff like that. Indiana, Kentucky, Tennessee, parts of Missouri, Iowa, Arkansas, Kansas, Oklahoma, Nebraska. I'm sure we'll get our heat. It's not going to go away. But I just have this feeling the Northwest, the Northeast, the Great Lakes regions, and possibly the Central Plains could see cooler temperatures than usual this summer. And possibly, early fall to early winter this year. Even though we're coming out of the minimum, I feel as if these solar effects are delayed, and if we just went through 3 of the weakest years of solar activity, and that's delayed in any part, well, that means we still have a potentially very brutal and cold winter on the way here for the Northern Hemisphere before we get back out of that into a more normal pattern by 2024. So 2022 and 2021 will be an interesting winter season to watch indeed. We're not even in summer yet. We can't even really imagine summer, because we're still struggling to see temperatures really get warmer than out there in the South and the Carolinas and Texas, parts of Oklahoma. Other than that, everybody else out there is seeing average to a little bit below average temperatures throughout the United States. So anyway, I want to say hi real quick to some of our folks out there in the chat. Wendy, good evening. Richard, how you doing, sir? Safe travels to you. Randy Willis, good evening as well. Edward, Knife Collector, good to see you out there. Very enthusiastic gardener. Be watching that draft tomorrow night. I'm excited that we don't have to depend on it for once in my entire 35 plus years of being a fan. I don't have to worry about who my team picks in the draft. So there you go, Veg. Anyway, back to the shout-outs. Globetrotter Mike, hello, I like your screen name there. Matt Bros, always a pleasure to have you here, sir. Thank you for your input. Richard, I think I already said hi to you. Jerome, fellow New Yorker. Good to see you out there, my friend. Justin Parks, hello. Hello, hello, hello. And many, many, many others. Sue Hayes, Pete, how you doing? Carl Ruffer, good to have you out there. And of course, hello to my wonderful wife, Mari, who is modding the chat right now. Say hello to her, everybody. Guys, stay tuned to Grand Solar Minimum. We're trying to do more broadcasts. I know we've been talking about that, but we are getting closer to that end day of our project. And then we will do Monday through Friday shows, Saturday night call-ins, and possibly Sunday afternoon just watching a video or two and just having a live chat for everyone to kind of congregate and learn new things. So stay tuned. Keep being loyal. If you support us and you want to support us a little bit more, Patreon is $1 to join. You can become a paid member here on YouTube for $1.99. Just consider it as a tip jar for us. We're not trying to sell these wild exotic packages where if you spend this much amount a month, you get to hold my microphone or something stupid like that. No, this is just simple. You become a paid member just to show an appreciation that you support the Grand Solar Minimum channel, and we are fully 100% subscriber supportive. So we do appreciate everything that you guys contribute to this YouTube channel, this company. This is what this is. This is an information company, and we are here to deliver the news and educate people and help them understand a little bit more about climate science and seismic activity. We do have a new shirt that will be debuting very soon. I think all of you will love this one. So be on the lookout for that. We will announce it one night. We will unveil it. But we have a new shirt that is in the works right now for our Teespring store. And I really believe this shirt here is going to hit it out of the park. Everyone's going to find a little bit of humor in this as well. As always, Mari and I, when we get together and put our heads together, Mari is usually the brains, but sometimes I have a couple good ideas too. So usually when we put our heads together, we make something that's pretty epic. So anyway, guys, thank you for tuning in once again to the Grand Solar Minimum channel. We hope everyone has a safe evening, and we will talk soon. Take care.
Do you like this show? Give us a thumbs up. Want to support us more? Share to your favorite social media platform. Buy a t-shirt or become a Patreon. All links are in the description below.